So let's watch the Matt Walsh clip and then get your reaction, Jimmy.
A child being in foster care is far from an ideal scenario. It's very, very sad. A child going to two gay parents, I think, is worse. I think it's easily worse, actually.
Why?
It's just more disordered. It's more confusing for the child. Again, neither scenario is good. We don't like either thing, but I don't see going to gay parents as an improvement over the what they had before. So,
do we know that it screws kids up, or we just sort of intuitively know it?
I think we intuitively know, but also there's been plenty of studies done about the mental health effects of kids that grow up in these, single-sex, same-sex parent homes. There's been a lot of studies done about it, but honestly, you can look at the studies, people will fact check, and they're there. I don't need studies for this. It's the same thing with the trans topic,
I think it's significantly different than the trans topic. Jimmy, what about you?
I think I intuitively know that someone who calls themselves a straight male who's against gay adoption and would rather have a kid be in an orphanage or foster care than be adopted by someone like Glenn Greenwald. I think we intuitively know that guy's confused because he was watching wrestling as a kid and he got a boner. And that confuses people. And I don't judge those people. I'm sure, and there's studies out there that prove that people who got boners watching professional wrestling are against gay adoption. And I'm not. You can find them. I'm not going to look for them, but I'm sure they're out there. And I just intuitively know that. And
Jimmy,
I'm a fan of Matt Walsh. I'm a big fan.
No, let me cut you off. Let me cut you off because we're not even talking about Matt Walsh. The weird thing, and I just got chills, and I shouldn't even admit this, and we're live right now, I'm just going to admit this. It's so weird that he talked about getting a boner to WWE, because when I was a kid, and that's why these kids are so messed up, they're over-sexualized, the first thing I ever cranked it to, and this is no joke, this is the first thing, Jimmy, was a Playboy magazine with Sable from the WWE on it. So literally, I got my first erection from watching wrestling, Jimmy. Now we're talking about Matt Walsh. How did you know that? And it didn't turn me gay. I'm straight, but it's just crazy that you talked about how you got a boner from WWF at the time is what it was. And I literally did.
I used to wrestle in high school, not very long, usually just until I came. And, if I could have controlled my orgasm, I could have went to state. And boy, did my dad hate Saturdays, I'll tell you. My opponents were like, "What's wrong with you?" I'm like, "Look what you're wearing." Anyway, so I think intuitively, and I don't want to make this like I'm beating up on Matt Walsh. I'm just having fun with him. I think I'm a big fan of both of his movies, and I agree with a lot of stuff he says. I disagree with him on this 100%, and I think he really opened himself up to ridicule for doing that.
Well, and this is the other thing is there's people though that are on there staunchly defending him, and I'm not calling them crazy. Just there is a lot of anti-gay rhetoric on the right, and it's not as bad as like the left says, because when it comes to a gay personality on the right, I think that the right actually wants to support them. They'll even help them out even more than a straight person sometimes. So why is that? I try to really dissect it. I try to look at it because I have gay family members. I'm not anti-gay. I don't really like the transitioning of children. I don't like the genital mutilation of a child. But I don't care if a person wants to wear a dress when they're an adult. Really, I don't want them peeing with my girlfriend, in the bathroom. So I guess my point is when it comes to the anti-gay rhetoric on the right, because it's not really on the left, is it because people were molested? I feel like that is a lot of it. And that's why they like this predator poacher content too, because people like to see the justice done on other people that they weren't able to have on their abusers. So what do you think the connection is on sexual trauma and gay hatred, Jimmy?
Well, I don't, well, you know what they say? They say hurt people, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't have a problem with anybody being any sexuality. I don't have a problem with a guy wearing a dress. And by the way, if you're a trans woman and I can't tell, you win. But I do say this, because putting on that's an aesthetic choice, putting on a dress, right? That doesn't make you a woman. If you put on a dress and you're a man and I can't tell that you're a man, that's fantastic. But if you're a man and you put on a dress and you look like you're about to carry your refrigerator up 3 flights of stairs, That's funny, and that's just inherently funny, and you get to make fun. I mean, they used to do Bud Light commercials about how funny he was. I mean, Some Like It Hot is a movie I just saw, by the way, which was revived last year on Broadway, which it won the Tony. So that's inherently funny. Men in women's clothing is inherently funny. You know, it's like a gorilla riding a tricycle is always going to be funny, even if the gorilla's trans. It's going to be funny. So but again, I'm all for it. And but I do think that, you know, people who are traumatized or uncomfortable with their own maybe homosexual or same-sex impulses, it lashes out that way. It comes out because if you are secure in your own sexuality, you don't give a crap about anybody else's sexuality. You don't care if a guy wants to be with another guy or whatever they want to do. It doesn't matter to you. If it makes you uncomfortable, that has something to do with you.
No, and you made a good point too. It's like the passing trans person I do have more respect for, because I have a lot of these bathroom debates. I go on these college campuses. I get to work for Turning Point and love Charlie Kirk, but I kind of play Charlie Kurt, kind of like the evil version of him. But, you know, they make this, they'll ask me, well, Alex, you know, you make fun of trans people, but aren't you friends with Blair White? I'm like, yeah, I am friends with Blair White. And to me, Blair White, I call her she, because Blair White is such a passing trans. So there is a big difference. I just think there is a difference between a Blair White who's like fully trans, where you really couldn't tell if you didn't know, and then the guy that's lifting the fridge in a muumuu. You know what I mean? There is a big difference.
Yeah. There's the difference between that guy who could win a weightlifting contest going, anybody see my makeup bag? I mean, that's funny. That's inherently funny. So, I'm just that. I mean, I've made my point on that, and people like to conflate drag queens with trans women, which they're not this. They have nothing to do with each other.
They're totally different.
Are they different?
And by the way, I like drag queens. I just my advice is when you go to the show, don't make eye contact, because they will zone in on you and they will humiliate you. So I learned that the hard way. And when I was a kid, my dad would take us on vacation to Washington, D.C., and we would go to the Presidential Library, and J. Edgar Hoover would read to us in a sundress. I mean, I love it.
No, yeah, that would be actually funny. But they're different. They're actually different because a drag queen's like doing a performance. They actually consider themselves masculine when they're not in drag.
Okay.
A trans person wants to be trans 24/7. They identify as a woman. Drag queens, actually, they will staunchly say, I'm not a woman. I just do this caricature of a woman. But it's crazy, though. You did make a good point. It is, and you're an expert comedian. Everybody needs to go to jimmydore.com and check out his dates. He's coming to a city near you. But you said a very funny thing. It is funny when the guy puts on the dress. But you know what I've yet to find funny, and they've tried to do it in Hollywood a couple of times, is not the drag queen, but the drag king. It's not as funny when the girl puts on the guy clothes, personally.
I'm so fly, I'm aligned with the planes. My grind so refined, I got no time for no games. Ask yourself